What I am hoping for in this presentation is to give you a sense of the map of the territory and kind of where we stand in the larger schema of this kind of evolutionary process. Okay, Suquamish UCC is an evolving church. We have put this out there instead of that really awful name Integral, but there is a sense in which we are an evolving church. We stand at the frothy edge, if you will, of the transformation of consciousness. Okay. Now, a lot of the connections that have been made out of this have come out of my book. The sales of my book are dismally bad. But the people that are reading them are kind of going, oh my gosh, something we have talked about now for a decade is actually happening in one small community here in the Northwest. Some of the things that are happening with that is I've connected with a guy, David Turner. He has done corporate presentations for 20 years. He's working with me to create a workbook out of the class we did on the Evolving Church, that 6-week class. So that will be there and available for others. Okay. Now, let's look at some of the other churches that are engaged in this. First, there's the whole progressive movement. Some of you, we're connected. We actually belong to the Center for Progressive Christianity. Fred Plummer is the president. They have been working now for more than a decade to articulate what does it mean to be a progressive Christian. The guy that looks like he's pretty drunk over here is actually a rock star minister down in Southern California by the name of Trip Fuller, who has tremendous influence around through a blog and things that they do. He's planning on interviewing me about what we're doing here. So we may become famous in Southern California, or infamous, as the case may be. And I just met a pastor down in San Rafael who was quite conscientiously being integral. In fact, if you can't see it here, but this is actually the quadrants that he's actually using as their card. Okay, next one. Then there are this movement of evolutionary Christianity, which takes this new great story that's come out of Brian Swim and Thomas Berry of how we've come to understand the universe and the evolution of the universe. Michael Dowd and both Bruce Sanguin, a lot of you have met Michael, he was here, tell the story, the Christian story, now through the language of evolution. Unity churches. It's quite interesting. The church that meets here in the afternoon, the Science of Mind Church, is part of a larger movement called New Thought. Unity churches are also part of that. They have 13 churches that are intentionally seeking to become what we would call integral. They are actively taking on this evolutionary role. And the gentleman I mentioned earlier who is going to be leading the workshop is working with these 13 churches and has what he calls an integral model of ministry. We hope he'll be connected with us. Cindy Wigglesworth, that is like the world's best name, yes, is really quite dynamic. I'm in the process of getting certified in her program on spiritual intelligence, and it's a thing we can use as a tool to actually help us move forward. I have put in a request to be one of their keynote speakers as their annual meeting at the recommendation of both these folks. So we may show up with an interesting alliance with Unity churches. Integral Church. This is quite, as my book has gotten out there, most of the folks that have read it have wanted to touch base with us. It's quite interesting. I is quite regularly forwarding stuff to me that comes from the website. John and Pam Dupuis are folks that I met through my friend Melissa at the Integral Theory Conference. They are doing the most extraordinary work with folks with drug and alcohol addiction through an integral program, and they have a number of tools that we'll be able to use here. You'll like this, and this guy, Jerry Bruceman. There's a group down in Australia that got a hold of my book. They're in the process of creating an Integral Institute in Australia and kind of go, okay, you guys here in this tiny little place in northwestern Washington are doing some of the best work we find anywhere. Okay? They're very enthusiastic. Brian McDonald has created the City of Peace. He's back on the East Coast. He contacted it. Wayne Gutner. Neville Ann Kelly is a theologian that I meet with and a friend with a group that I meet with. She'll be here in the springtime sometime to talk to us about the integral roots of Christianity. She's a stunning theologian. Dennis McCracken has an appropriate name. He's as much of a smartass as I am. He's a psychologist down in the Bay Area.